What's up, guys? This is the Board Game Roamer, and I am super, super, super excited to bring you this unboxing of Black Orchestra. This is the second edition. The game was created by Philip Dewberry. This is a Nazi. You're basically trying to assassinate Adolf Hitler, and you've got all these plots and all these different things that you have to gather to get ready to do to attempt the plot, the assassination plot. He's constantly rising and gaining military power, and there's his generals and other people that are moving around the board that are constantly doing things to slow you down with their abilities, and events are happening every turn. It's just a really, really awesome game. This game is one that I found originally actually through Game Board Geek. Or sorry, not Game Board Geek. Game Night on Game Board Geek. They're Board Game Geek. Game Board Geek, yeah. Anyway, Game Night is where I saw this played, and I saw it and I was like, oh man, that is amazing. So I went and checked, and at that point, and they even said it in their playthrough, you couldn't hardly find it. I mean, everybody, I believe it was a Kickstarter originally, and everything sold out, and nobody wanted to, get rid of their copy. So they just relatively recently did a second print run. So this is the second edition, and I managed to grab one from none other than my buddies at Miniature Market. No, they're not a sponsor, but they are a sponsor of Robert Oren, whose channel I follow. I'm in there all the time. Not under Board Game Roamer, so I'm not going to tell you who I am because I want to keep that separate. But really awesome, and I just saw he got his copy, so I'm super excited to see his playthrough when he does it. But I want to get this baby unboxed, and let's check out Black Orchestra. I have not, as you can see, taken the cellophane off. I'll show you the back right quick. So basically, you can see here, you play as various people. You have suspicion. You have like your level of commitment, and you have items that you can get. You're moving around Germany, and depending on these decks are basically, you think of those as kind of like as the war progresses. And that's how you get further and further out to find more stuff, but you're moving around and you've got all these plots and all these secret documents and stuff that can help you, but you get raided by the Gestapo. It's just really awesome. It is a game for 1 to 5 players. Time 90 minutes. I'd say that's fair, depending on how many people are playing and the level that they, how often they've played this before. But it's really, really awesome. Man, let's get this baby unboxed. And you can see 22 by 22. It's actually almost a 2 foot by 2 foot board, so it's not a small board necessarily. It's very cool, I think, because there's not really, when you look at the number of components, while there are a few, there's not some just insane amount of components, but there is a ton of amazing gameplay in this box. So, let's get the shrink off here. Get that to the side. There we go. So there's Black Orchestra. Nice, smooth box. Feels like pretty decent thickness of the cardboard. Alright, cool. Here's the book. The rule book, it looks like, shows you all the pieces. Motivation, suspicion, items, dice, gives you all your actions, things that you can and can't do, events, Gestapo raids, you can go to jail, you can get arrested. I forgot about that. You can get arrested and go to jail, and then somebody has to get you out. Then you attempt plot, see if you're detected. The cool thing too that I like about this is if you attempt an assassination plot and you fail, you are found out and you lose all the stuff. So if you're going to use items, tokens for attempts, then you actually lose those. So it makes it much harder to, you got to really kind of wait for the right time and bide your time. But you do have that clock and those cards at the top, and they're event cards that get worse and worse. What is this? Oh, I think this is just like a set up and play. Yeah. So this is just a short version of the rules. It gives you all the stuff on one quick card, which is pretty cool. Here's and actually I think this is literally all the tokens for the game. You have your people, Hess, Goebbels, Bormann, Himmler, Goering, and Hitler that are moving around on the board. And then you got you can make, depending on the difficulty is basically how much power Hitler has, which determines how hard it is to kill him, to assassinate him. You've got all these items. These items, some are required for plots to be done. Some of them will give you additional dice to make the plots easier to complete. The assassination attempt easier to complete depending on what it is. And then here's the board. Alright, so let's pull all this stuff out a little bit. It's a big old box for not a lot of stuff. Alright, so let's just kind of, let's see here. Let's just set that over here. So let's take a quick look at the board. I'm really curious as to how big this board really is. Oh, that's not too bad. I mean, I know the dimensions when you see that. I can tell you exactly 22 by 22, but how much table space it actually takes up. That's actually not a whole lot. So, let's see, I should be able to get it pretty much all in frame. Yeah, that's the whole board right there. So, it's a bigger table, but it's not. I mean, a bigger board, but it's not too bad really. So that's cool. And also, the other part that I think is awesome is it will give you what you do if on your turn and all your options that you have, what you can do, some symbology, what happens when you roll the dice, all your tracks are on here, how to do plots. It's really, really nice. They're trying to give you a lot of that information on the board. So between that, a once over with the rule book and then the little card, you should be good to go. And realistically, like I said, having seen some playthroughs, it's really not a difficult game at all. It's not hard to understand or anything like that. So let's see here. Let's open up these dice. Alright, so here's the die. Wow, those are actually a lot chunkier. These are at least 16 millimeter. But each die has, this is a pretty cool element of the game too. Each die has, let's see, looks like 2 targets, which are those symbols. Then you have a number between a 1, 2, or 3, and then you have a 1 eagle. And so basically, one of the things you can do on your turn, one of the actions is called conspire. And so on your turn, you can use between 1 and 3 of your actions for conspire, and that determines how many dice, and so you roll it. And if you roll the Nazi eagle, it's going to make you more suspicious, which means it's going to be harder for you to get out of stuff. If you're trying to make an attempt at something, then the target symbol will come up. So in this case, I actually would have just raised my suspicion. And then these symbols go up onto the board, and there's a track up there that will actually help you, the conspirators, out as they're playing along. But if you land on a number, so let's say that I land on 2 3s, or heck, 3 3s, then I actually get 9 more actions. Now I can only take that, conspire action once per turn, but potentially you could get, up to 9 actions, in a turn. But, odds are obviously you're not going to get that. You're looking at, 4 or 5 maybe, if you rolled all 3 dice. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And then the components are very simple. You basically have a pawn on the board to represent your conspirator, and then you have a couple cubes that track your conspirators' suspicion and motivation, and this is their card. So you have your items here, And then depending on your motivation, so basically how committed you are to the cause, it kind of starts to unlock abilities, and it determines your hand size for purposes of plots that you can hold and items that you can hold that may even help you to do better in those plots as far as cards, the card size goes, card side goes. But then you also have a place here for items. So as you're moving around the board, all these items that we looked at earlier, signature, weapon, etc., all these are laid and flipped over, and so you're flipping those over and finding those, and you're putting those there, and then you can trade those with each other, with other conspirators, if you're in the same location and all that sort of stuff. So it's really cool. Of course, you know, depending on your suspicion, right, when you're trying to do things, your suspicion, it may fail, like assassination attempts may fail at extreme, because if you're rolling dice and you roll an eagle, it automatically fails. Whereas if you're low suspicion, 3 eagles show up and then you're okay. So it's super fun. There are different, I guess I don't want to say factions because that's really not the right word, but there are people here, and on the back they don't really have anything, but there is a little bit of a explanation of them, and you can go look them up online. These are all actual people that were part of the war. So you have, like, this is the head of the Arboir, Abwehr. So there's basically the Abwehr. I don't want to call it faction because that's not really true, but it's kind of like 2 different parts of the military. There's the Abwehr, and then there's the Wehrmacht, right? Which is what these guys are. This guy, Stauffenberg, Klaus von Stauffenberg, you should recognize him from the movie Valkyrie, right? This is the guy that movie was based on, that attempted that assassination attempt on Hitler. And then you have a couple of civilians, a diplomat, and a politician. So, and again, depending on what their level is here, they all have different abilities to get unlocked at motivated, committed, and in fact, some plots you have to be all the way up to the very top at reckless to even attempt it. So that's pretty cool. Cards. So we got a ton of, well, we don't have a ton of cards, but we got a lot of cards. Let's start with, I don't know if all these cards will be in here, but I can kind of show you a little bit about what the cards will look like. And we get all this. I know, there's a thing there. All smart, I could have opened it like that. Alright, so, well, shoot. Okay. So here's the cards. These are conspirator cards. So these have the, let me just open all these up so I can show them to you at the same time. Give me just a second here. There's only 3 packs, so it's not like there's just a ton of packs out here. Those are all 5, 4s, 5s. Really? They're backwards. Those silly people. 3, 3, 2. And at some point in time, we should run ones. There's a 1, that's a 1, that's a 2. There's the last couple of 1s. Okay. And then let's get these over here. Open these bad boys up. There we go. Lots of wrap. And there's a victory card. We killed Hitler. Announce your triumph on social media. And you take a picture of that and post it on Facebook or whatever, so that's pretty cool. Alright, so we've got some of these. I'm just looking at the backs here, so give me a second to get these. There we go. I think that's the rest of that stack. And then those are 5s. Right. Okay, there we go. Cool. Alright, so these cards, it's a pretty thick stack, are all the cards. There's basically 7, I guess you'd call it time periods of the war. And basically, the game is lost in one of 2 ways. Either everybody's in jail at the same time, or you go through all these events, and depending on the number of players, you'll take some of these out. So it will be a shorter game with fewer people potentially. A couple of them out anyway. These events, if you run out of these events and you can't draw one of these cards, then the game ends. But these will do things like this has set Hitler's military support to its starting value, move Hitler and Goebbels into the Sports Palace. All conspirators in Berlin lower their suspicion by 1. So these kind of events, that's really hard to see, I'm sorry. I don't have a good way to do that either. These kind of events are some of them are gonna be helpful to you, like lower the suspicion. Some of them are not gonna be, because you may get in a card like, like here's one that says this is the last stage, but Albuquerque cannot use their special abilities to the end of the game for the rest of the game. So, you can have really nice stuff, you can have really bad stuff. Then you have these things like Gestapo raids. If you have extreme suspicion, you're arrested. And if you have an illegal card, you either have to raise your suspicion or discard it. And you get rid of the descent track, which is basically one of the track at the top that I talked about earlier. So you got a ton of these cards, and some of these are key events that actually happen, like the I guess it's Anzio landing, the Nazi-Soviet pact, party rallies, Sudetenland occupation, the Anschluss. So, there are things that do help those key events in history, but there's a lot of that will actually help you, or at a minimum, move people around. Although, you got to remember, each one of these guys, each one of these generals, Hess, Goebbels, Bormann, Himmler, Goering, Hitler, if you start your turn in a space where they're at, you can't conspire, they cancel your ability, you got to discard a card, an item, your suspicion gets raised, your motivation gets lowered. So they do have negative effects. I'm not really sure what these cards are for, but that should be interesting. So then you got these other cards. These are plot cards. And you have things like, and it's kind of interesting because there's not a ton of plot cards, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 plots, I think, if I counted that right. A through M. There's only 12 plots, so there's not a ton of plots out there. So you're kind of limited in the plots, but realistically, what you need to do these, so like for instance, this lone gunman, you have to be in the same space as Hitler, and you have to be a reckless motivation, right? And then you get additional dice if you have a weapon, if you're Wehrmacht, and you get to ignore a Nazi eagle if you have a badge. So, there are ways to get more stuff. And then on some of these, and it's really hard to see on these cards. Obviously, it's hard for you to see, but even on the cards themselves, it's really hard to see. There's actually I'm not going to be able to get it to do it. There's actually, on some of these cards, there's an asterisk, and that says that you can have up to 3 of that item. So you can really increase your odds depending on how many items you have. And again, it's not only the items, it's how popular Hitler is at the time. So there may be points where you're going around gathering items, and then you've got to really work to drop Hitler's military power down in order to be able to get enough successes to actually pull the plot off. So that's how that works. I'm kind of curious about. Give me 1 second here. I'm not sure what these cards are for. They also like tell us what you know, and then there's like multiple options. So I'm not really sure what these are. There's been a mistake. Your time is running out. Yeah. So let's see what these are. I did not remember seeing these. Interrogation cards? No, that must be like an advanced version of the game or something. Because there's the symbol right there, interrogation cards. 24 interrogation cards. Let's see. Motivation, suspicion, dossier and item limits, actions, the descent track, raids, interrogation cards. Oh, when you start your turn in prison, draw the top card of the interrogation deck and read it. And you have to choose one of the options that's on the card, but you can't talk to anybody. Or tell them what your card says. So that's pretty cool. So that's if you start your turn in prison. That's neat. I guess nobody. I know it's not a watch far enough long where I don't remember anybody starting their turn in prison. So, anywho, that, ladies and gentlemen, is Black Orchestra. Awesome game. Definitely check this out. It is 1 to 5 players, so there is a solo option. So that's super exciting. I'm looking forward to trying this out and seeing what happens. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Play more games. At the time of this recording, we're just a couple, 3 weeks away from Tabletop Day, so find a place to be. I've got an announcement, hopefully closer to time. I do have a publisher that is going to try to get on a live stream that day with us as we play their game. So hopefully we can get that squared away, and I'll get the time based on their schedule when they can be on, and you guys will have a chance to see that and have a discussion with them if you want to. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for commenting and subscribing. You guys are awesome. Really enjoyed this. Look forward to play this game. I'm the Board Game Roamer, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.